the news.
Polish President Lech Kaczynski has died in a plane crash near an airport in western Russia. All passengers on board died in the accident. Estimates of the number killed range from 89 to 132. The presidential plane came down in a forest as it came into land at Smolensk Airport early on Saturday morning. Kaczynski travelled from Warsaw early on Saturday morning with his wife, senior government officials and several journalists. He was set to attend a service to mark the 70th anniversary of the Katyn massacre. Elected president in 2005, Kaczynski was 60 years old when he died. Warsaw says it will now hold a fresh vote as a result of his death. A Smolensk regional government spokesman told the Reuters news agency that pilot error was the reason for the accident. Authorities have begun searching the wreckage to recover the bodies of those who died. The presidential plane was a 20-year-old Tupolev 154. According to the Aviation Safety Network, there have been 66 crashes involving similar aircraft. Russian carrier Aeroflot recently withdrew its Tupolev 154s from service over safety concerns. Similar fears had been expressed by Polish officials, but the plane was never replaced due to a lack of funds.
News of President Kaczynski's death shocked the crowd gathered at the Katyn Memorial to remember 22,000 Poles murdered by Soviet forces in 1940. Former Polish government minister Jacek Sasin led prayers for all those who died on board the Tu-154 Tupolev, which crashed in thick fog on its approach to Smolensk Airport. The grief of those present was a poignant reminder that many people on the doomed aircraft were relatives of the victims of the Katyn massacre, an enduring symbol for Poles of their suffering under Soviet rule. For many decades, Moscow blamed the Nazis for the deaths of thousands of Polish prisoners of war and intellectuals, and only acknowledged its responsibility in 1990, a year after the fall of communism in Poland. Polish citizens are coming to terms with the tragic death of their president and his wife Maria, along with an entourage of senior government figures. Families have been laying flowers and shedding tears outside the presidential palace in Warsaw. President Kaczynski was not universally popular, but his death has caused shock and dismay on the streets of Poland's cities. It's a great shock because the elite of our nation went there to remember the dead from 70 years ago, and right now Poland is really in trouble. We are all in shock and our thoughts are with the families of the dead. Actually, it's very hard to say anything. I came here to light a candle because the best president we've ever had has died. It's true. I'm sorry. With the Polish flag flying at half-mast, questions are already being asked about the cost-saving measures, which meant the country's one and only presidential jet had been in service since 1990. The son of a Second World War resistance hero, Lech Kaczynski portrayed himself as a man of the people. Often a controversial figure on the world stage, his right-of-centre approach to politics appealed to many Poles. His populist policies earned him a reputation as a politician prepared to take tough decisions. As mayor of Warsaw, he declared war on corruption, banned gay marches and backed the reintroduction of the death penalty. A candidate of the Law and Justice Party, he was elected president of Poland in 2005. At his inauguration, he stated several goals he would pursue during his presidency. Among those concerning internal affairs were increasing social solidarity in Poland, bringing justice to those who were responsible or affected by communist crimes in the People's Republic of Poland, fighting corruption, providing security in economy and safety for development of family. Kaczynski also stated he would seek to abolish differences between regions. In his speech, he also put emphasis on combining modernisation with tradition and remembering the teachings of Pope John Paul II.
Security forces are in full control in Kyrgyzstan's capital Bishkek for the first time since this week's uprising. On previous nights, vigilante groups backed by the self-proclaimed new government were on patrol. But as voluntary youth brigades prepared to take to the streets once again to battle looters, news arrived their services were no longer needed. Wednesday's clashes killed at least 75 people in Kyrgyzstan, where a third of the population live below the poverty line. With the Central Asian country's future uncertain, the US military has suspended troop flights out of its Manas air base there. Forces will instead be transported to and from Afghanistan via Kuwait. Russia, which also has a military base in Kyrgyzstan, will be watching events closely. Under interim leader Rosa Otunbayeva, the former Soviet Republic has moved closer to Moscow. She's offered ousted President Kurmanbek Bakiev safe passage from Kyrgyzstan. Having fled to the south, he says he fears he'll be killed if he returns to the capital. Reports say he's to be stripped of his immunity from prosecution. As a struggle for power and influence unfolds inside and outside the battered country's borders, for now a tense calm has descended on Kyrgyzstan. Russia wants to suspend adoptions of its children by American citizens after this 7-year-old was sent back from the United States with a note disowning him. Artyom Savelyev arrived alone at a Moscow airport with a letter from his adoptive US mother saying she no longer wished to parent him. Officials say the note asked for the adoption to be annulled on the grounds that the child was mentally unstable and violent. The way he was treated was beyond immoral. We've decided that the Foreign Ministry will insist on freezing all adoptions by US families until Russia and the US sign an agreement setting out adoption terms. Washington says it's troubled by the case, the latest to raise concerns about adoptive American parents' treatment of Russian children, but the US hopes it won't preclude future adoptions.
Over 180 countries are meeting in Bonn to revive the UN's plans to tackle global warming. Protesters dumped broken glass outside the conference hall, urging delegates to make real commitments 4 months after climate change talks in Copenhagen. That summit agreed a deal to limit global warming to 2 degrees Celsius by 2020. But with pledges to cut emissions only voluntary, some say it is doomed to fail.
Small islands don't feel as if anything has changed. It's gotten worse, in fact. Because when you look at the targets that have been put on the table under the Copenhagen Accord, they are pointing to an increase of between 3.5 to 4 degrees Celsius. So, if anything, it's gotten worse.
Poorer nations want a legally binding treaty introduced by the end of the year. The European Union backs that call, saying Copenhagen did not go far enough. But other industrialised countries have hailed the agreement in Copenhagen, with the head of the US delegation on Friday praising the deal as a significant milestone and a remarkable breakthrough.